Hello and welcome to the first episode for Resolute Bonsai. Today we are going to be working on some deadheading and pruning on our azaleas here. Now we've got a few varieties, the first being the Satsuki azalea, and I just picked this one up from Brussels Bonsai and it just came in today. And as you can see, we've already got some nice flowering going on. Now, for those of you that don't know, Satsuki in Japan means quite literally May. And that's when these azalea are supposed to be blooming between May and June. So the blooming on this one is a bit of a shock, but we're gonna get it taken care of, and fingers crossed we may see some flowering next spring, but we'll get to that in a bit. The second variety we have is the Kongo-No-Hikari. And I've had this one for about 2 months now, and I'm not really seeing any budding that has taken place throughout the summer. So I don't really need to do any deadheading on this one, more or less just giving it a light prune and kind of cleaning it up a bit. So that's what we're going to do. The tools that we're going to be using today are some standard shears and some branch cutters for any limbs that may need to come off, and I've got some cut paste as well just in case we've got any big cuts to make. So we'll go ahead and get started. The first thing is, like I mentioned, I just got this plant in today, and overall it's a good looking tree to begin with, but I do see some small pruning that we can do along with the deadheading to kind of shape that canopy a little bit and give it more of a uniform look. Now, for my personal preference, I kind of like the size of this tree. I don't really want a very large azalea for this bonsai, so my thought is that I'm going to keep it around this height. So we can just do some light pruning around to kind of shape that canopy and get the flowers off of there, so that any of the pruning we do today can go ahead and direct that energy into the tree and the back budding to really give us a dense canopy. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to deadhead. Now with these azaleas, you want to make sure that you get all the way behind the bud. So I'm not sure if you guys can see, but the bud goes all the way down below the flower. And some may think that you just kind of pop the flower off and you're good to go. But if you see, I can pull these petals off, and there's still some, I believe they call it stamen that are left on there, and so you haven't really deflowered the plant. You've just kind of pulled the petals off. So you need to actually go in and come just behind the kind of the bud there and give a nice little snip. And so we'll just continue that on around the plant. I'll try and get all of the buds that I can find. There are probably 6 or 7 on here now. We'll get those taken off, and then we will work on the pruning. I'm just going to cut this back quite significantly, and I'm not really worried about how much I take off, because azalea respond very well to pruning, and within a matter of a few weeks to a couple of months, everything that we've pruned off will have responded and back budded quite well. So you don't really need to be overly cautious about what you take off, because it will recover and it'll be even better than it was before. So leave those. I'm gonna bring this back here. There. And we're gonna give it a nice shaping. All right, so I am pretty satisfied with the overall shape of this now. We've got a nice dome shape going here. The branches come out to a nice V taper, which is, from what I've researched, how you want your azalea to look. Now, I am not a professional when it comes to any of this. I'm very much still learning myself. So, but from what I have read, that's kind of the shape that you want for your azaleas. So I'm just gonna knock off a few additional dead leaves here and there, and this one is gonna be good to go. So that's gonna be it for that one. Now let's clean off our space here and take a look at the Hikari. So this is a Kongo-No-Hikari. It's got a beautiful two-toned flowering pattern to it. You'll see a lot of white petals with some salmon undertones kind of spread throughout the middle. Spackled, I believe they say. But like I mentioned, this one came to me about 2 months ago. I haven't had a chance to really do anything with it. I wanted to just kind of let it grow and see if it would develop any buds for next spring. It doesn't look like it's going to, and we are just a few days away from fall. So it's starting to cool off here. The nights are getting a little cooler, so I don't anticipate seeing any buds develop. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a pruning. Now the overall shape of this azalea is more of a cascade. So we've got a nice trunk line that comes up and curves back over this way. And I want to continue with that trunk line. I think that would look really, really nice with this particular tree. But there are a few, I guess you could say, problem branches that we need to get rid of. Some that are kind of competing with the trunk line, some that are, that are crossing back over, and a few that we are getting more than the branches that we want. So we're just going to give it a little trim and see what we can do with this guy. Right, so not a lot of material taken off. This is the amount that I've taken off both plants. So not too much, but again, they really needed it. We gave a nice overall shaping to our Satsuki, and like I mentioned before, we're not really going to see any flowering on either of these next spring, because we didn't have any buzz on this one, on the Hikari to begin with, but we took everything off of the Satsuki. But actually looking at it now, I do see one bud in there that is nowhere nearing opening up. So my hope is that it will stay closed. As the temperatures are starting to get cooler, it will know that it should not open, and maybe we'll have one budding, one flower for next spring. Fingers crossed. So those are our two azaleas, nice and trimmed up, and I think they're looking pretty good. I'm very anxious to see what they look like come next spring, and I think we're in good shape. So that's going to do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like the video, please be sure to subscribe, turn on those notifications for when we upload our next video, and of course give this one a thumbs up if you did like it. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.